take just as much of that bark edge off of that with the first cut as I can. This log is 8 feet long, and my intent is getting as many 2x4s out of this drill as we can get. Get squared up and get our rails on. After I get this guy fastened, I'm going to level this up, and then we'll put the other one on level with this one. Yeah, it's going to take most of it out of there. And again, I'm attempting to get as much of that bark, that punky bark, away from the good wood as I can. Round about there. I'm going to take a measurement from the center of the log to the bottom. Fasten the other one pretty close and level. Put these crown up. Anything you don't want sawdust in, you better move it back 20, 30 feet, depending on the wind direction. One thing to make this process a little easier before we get the weight of the saw in to the mill itself is I'm going to let this guy down on this side, and I'm going to set it just about a 1/16 of an inch below my rail there. And then I will set the other side according to the measurement that is on the front of the height adjustment for this. But this step is most certainly easier without the saw being in here and making this heavier and then trying to adjust it as well. But you can also measure from the bottom of your rail here down to this, mount your saw, and then just make sure that this bottom rail is the same distance that you want. You guys do that however you prefer. It's looking pretty good. I get these snug, but I don't have to over tighten them. Make sure they don't vibrate loose while we're milling. Once you get the saw set in here, this becomes pretty rigid. I am going to check and make sure that I am right down to the last 16th here. Take close care here too, not to be bumping against the metal with the chain. And also these mounting brackets I keep right in the center of the bar, both top and back. That way, as you're putting tension between these two rails here, you're not over tightening on one spot of the chain or bar over the other. I just simply look and see how many threads that I have through the bottom side. That'll give me an idea if we're running square or not. Stick this guy in now. There we go. Now these back here, you're better off to have a wrench, ratcheting wrench, or a extension on a 3/8 drive. I didn't bring mine down today, so we're going to tighten it up with this chainsaw wrench. I think just about the time I get everything set up here, it's going to start raining. Pretty close. And when you're sawing through the log, you do put more tension against this thing than what you would think. So I do snug these up, but I'm going to check and make sure that my chain is still rolling freely before I actually start milling across there. Because sometimes if you get this in position wrong, it can actually pinch the bar and make the chain not work. Slide that up here. Yeah, we're going to be okay. Nope. So equal distances on the rails, that keeps the square running across. Everything's mounted up. I'm going to get it fueled and put some bar oil in it. We should be ready to mill. I think I can lift this up. So that's our bark side. Well, we've done a good job of staying right underneath that bark. Perfect. We still got quite a bit right there. Now our next log will take even more of that out. And right here it looks like the saw dipped on me a little bit. But other than that, that was due to the shims I was putting in as well. You really have to be careful when you put your shims in because you're lifting up your leveling platform. So I try to keep this guy, and that's pretty close to the thickness of this chain. It needs to be a little bit thicker, but then just shim accordingly as you're going through. Now that we have this one out of the way, our rail is going to ride right across the top here, and we can mill as much as we want to. Now what we're going to do is set down to our 2-inch increment. And that'll set it, and we'll continue to cut until we're out of material. And at this point I will take a measurement with a tape measure now from here right to the bottom of my rails and make sure that I have it set exactly the same. Now another thing, now that we're using this as our rail, the bottom of the saw becomes our complete depth of cut. So I'm measuring this, and that's actually at 2 1/4. And then from the top side, where we're making our finish cut, that's dead on 2 inches. So the bar thickness is 1/4 inch. Now our first cut, because we're getting a lot of that rounded edge as well as bark, that's always the easiest. So our next one, and then as you get to the heart of the wood, it just continues to slow down the process until you get back down to where you're cutting the half rounds again. So at this point we used very little fuel. Now the next plank we cut off will be a little more fuel usage per run, as well as continuous until we get back down to the narrow part of the log. Now that this is our finished surface, we don't want to be riding up on any sawdust or anything like that and changing the depth of our cut. Let's try it again. That is a good looking board. Now I'm going to let this thing cool off, and I leave it running after I've made my initial exit of the lumber, and let it sit there and run for about 30 seconds, in my opinion, to allow it to cool itself off. It does have a fan on the magneto side that helps cool it down a little bit. The chain's not overly hot, so you know it's running as efficient as it can. But boy, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 8 logs down that I got to get through. Some of them 12 footers. So definitely take your time, set your mill up right, and let the sawdust fly. This saw can mill through it though. I'll see you on the next one.